episode of Stages. My name is Paul Johnson, designer of Stages, a practical way for you to do life-on-life discipling. You can find Stages at the App Store, Disciple Making Maker Stages, or the website disciplemakingstages.com. We'll go to the website in a bit, so I want you to be aware of that. Stages is designed for you to do life-on-life discipling with another person. Let me ask you a question. How did you learn to drive? Did your dad throw you the keys and say, get at it and be safe and have a good time? Of course not. He instructed you, or your older brother instructed you, or someone, maybe a professional. You had an instructor to help you learn how to drive so you could drive on your own. It's interesting, in church we do body life, and we're in the middle of city life, but doing life on life, having a spiritual instructor, is almost unheard of. We can't throw the keys to a newly baptized believer and say, have a good time, you figure it out, and I'll see you in heaven. No, this is what discipling is, life on life. This is what Stages is meant to help you with. There are 4 stages. We're going to spend time today looking at the disciple stage, the third one, curious, believer, baptism right then, and then disciple and disciple maker. And this episode will zone in on the love and obey stage, which is the disciple stage. It's helpful for you to know that you'll be building habits or disciplines. I like the word rhythms into a disciple's life. As you look at this, you're preparing to meet with a friend and help them in one of these categories. So let's just review them. Get together. There's 2 areas, 2 skills that we develop: worship and study together, small groups. We're pretty good at that in our churches. Get alone, we're not very good at. We don't train people and help people to spend time in the Word, spend time in prayer, give God part of their day. And so because of that, we don't get active very much. You know, when you find 2, a guy and a girl that start dating, fall in love, all of a sudden she has an interest in hockey and ends up going to hockey games because he loves hockey. And you know what he does? He goes shopping. He never went shopping before. But when you get alone as lovers, then you get active together. So we're going to talk about getting alone, and the two get alone skills or rhythms are silence, and what we'll talk about today, solitude. You can find this. Let's just stop. I have a document here. You can find it in the website, disciplemakingstages.com. Go to Disciple and look for additional helps and scan down and you'll find solitude. I'll be referring to that. This is what you'd use in a meetup with your friend. You'll have coffee together and you'll print it out, put it on your iPad, and you'll start discussing together what solitude is. Why solitude? Because lovers love to get alone and get happy. That's totally a no-brainer, right? You don't have to say to Sam and Phoebe, you guys should spend time together. They're going to say, get a life. We're inseparable. Because lovers, when they become romantic, want to spend more and more time together. This is a great insight, by the way, for us to consider. Why don't we spend time more with Jesus? One of them is we simply don't love him the way we ought to do. Rick Warren says most men, most women perhaps, live lives of aimless distraction. You know what you'll do as a disciple maker? You'll start putting into people's lives skills, rhythms that change their entire life. They'll talk about you for the rest of your life because you're investing in their life, helping them to connect to God and then get active in his ministry. That's a great dream for you to have as you become a disciple maker. Solitude, again, is the undistracted time 2 lovers enjoy together. That word enjoy has to be a serious, significant word there, because they really do want to be together. And no matter who they are, maybe I remember a doctor who was doing his residency, he said to me, You know, Paul, residency means you live at the hospital, but he was engaged, and he found ways to connect with his fiancée. So we're talking about intentional ways to connect to Jesus with solitude. If you're discipling somebody, I'd start right here. David in Psalm 27, it's a psalm about fear and how to overcome fear. But he says, I heard God's voice in this, and it said, come and talk to me. And David responds, Lord, I am coming. That's lover conversation. Can you hear that? The invitation and the response. So you would help your friends say, this is how we want to be with Jesus in relating to them. This really clinched it for me when I was young. Mark 1:35, you're working with somebody, you've got your Bibles together, you open it up to Mark 1, read the verses before, how busy Jesus was, and then this, Jesus got up. You know, he's a guest in a home. But before anybody else, he got up and went out to an isolated place to pray. Solitude. And I realized in my life, I must do that. I must become that kind of person. He continued it in his ministry, and as it says in Luke 5, you could read with your friend, go into Luke 5, read the surrounding verses for context, and then Jesus often withdrew to the wilderness for prayer. So you'd ask that person, and you'd ask yourself, where is my wilderness? My wilderness is when I walk my dog. Sometimes I walk for a half hour. Nobody's around. I'm undistracted. And I can just process things and talk to God. Maybe your wilderness is driving, commuting. Maybe it's walking to the bus. I don't know what it would be. But you should ask your friend and disclose for yourself. This would be my wilderness. I could find time for God during this time. George Mueller, the famous orphanage director in England centuries ago, gave me a phrase, get happy in Jesus. Before he's a Christian, he was a con artist. Dan Morgan gave me that insight. So he could con you out of money, but when he became a Christian and began a ministry for orphans, he realized, I can't do that. I must pray the money in. And so he came to the place of saying, my responsibility early morning, here's a statement, the first great and primary business I must attend to every day is to get my soul happy in Jesus. Get happy in Jesus. You know, you don't have to tell lovers to get happy. They love to be together. And so you help your friends say, this is what you want to do with Jesus. It looks different for every person. I'm up early, you know, at my age, I just wake up. What if I were a mom with 2 preschoolers? I have no discretionary time. What if I'm that resident surgeon and I'm on call? You get the idea. You're going to have to say, God, will you help me to find time? The Bible doesn't command when to do solitude. I could show you verses about the morning. You could show me Psalm 4 late at night. And Psalms talks about waking up in the middle of the night to pray. You get the idea. You find time that fits for you. Remember, you're helping a person get alone with God. Solitude, silence, to listen to his word, to listen to the Spirit. Habits take 21 days to get started, and they say 66 days to really lock it in. So be patient. Give grace days to yourself and to the person you're discipling, and do it with them. Say, why don't we work through Philippians this month? We'll just go slow. We'll take 10 minutes. Solitude. Let's compare notes. Well, this is life-changing. If you help somebody learn to get alone with God, I promise you, they'll use you in their story in the coming years and say, I started growing spiritually because my friend invested in me and trained me, took the time. That's why I'm so impressed. You're watching this, and of course, not just watching, but you're saying, God, this is what I want to do. I want to help someone else for that. That's our episode today. I look forward to seeing you again. Put it into practice. Become a disciple maker.